It was nearly midnight when I found myself standing outside my own house, the cold air biting through my sweater. My hands trembled as I clutched my purse tightly, Scott's angry words echoing in my mind. "Get out! You don't belong here anymore." Those were the last words my son said to me before slamming the door shut. Tears blurred my vision as I turned away, the reality of what had just happened sinking in. How did it come to this? How did the boy I raised with so much love and care turn into a stranger? The answer was simple. Rachel. Ever since Scott married her, she'd been tearing us apart, bit by bit. Her manipulation was subtle at first, small comments that planted doubts in Scott's mind. Over time, those doubts grew into full-blown accusations, and now, I was the enemy. As I stood on the curb, unsure of where to go, headlights approached. A familiar car pulled up, and the window rolled down to reveal Sabrina, my best friend. Her face was a mix of concern and anger. "Julia? What are you doing out here? What happened?" she asked, her voice laced with worry. I couldn't hold back the sobs any longer. "He kicked me out, Sabrina, on my birthday. He said I was causing too much trouble." Sabrina's eyes widened in shock before narrowing with fury. "That ungrateful brat! Get in the car! You're coming home with me!" I climbed into the passenger seat, my body numb. As she drove, Sabrina kept glancing at me, her knuckles white as she gripped the steering wheel. "This isn't right, Julia. You've given everything to Scott. It's time he learned that actions have consequences." I shook my head, my voice barely above a whisper. "What can I do, Sabrina?" "He's made his choice. Rachel has poisoned his mind against me." Sabrina pursed her lips, her jaw set in determination. "Maybe so, but that doesn't mean they get to treat you like this. It's time we fought back." Her words stirred something in me. A flicker of hope, a spark of anger. For too long, I had been the victim, allowing Rachel's lies to dictate my life. Maybe Sabrina was right. Maybe it was time to take control. The next morning, over coffee, Sabrina laid out her plan. "I know someone who can help us," she said, her eyes gleaming. "My brother James. He's a private investigator. If Rachel has skeletons in her closet, he'll find them." I hesitated. The thought of digging into Rachel's past felt wrong, but then I remembered the way she'd smirked as Scott threw me out. She'd won, and she knew it. I couldn't let her destroy my life without a fight. "Okay," I said, my voice firmer than I expected. "Let's do it." Later that week, I met James at a small diner. He was tall, with a rugged look that spoke of experience. He listened patiently as I recounted everything Rachel had done, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "She sounds dangerous," he said. "But don't worry. If there's dirt to be found, I'll find it. Give me a week." The days crawled by as I waited for James's call. I tried to keep busy, but my mind kept wandering back to Scott and Rachel. Would James find anything? Would it even make a difference? Finally, my phone rang. "Julia, it's James. I've got something. Can you meet me at my office?" My heart pounded as I drove to his office. Sabrina was already there, her face lit with anticipation. James greeted us with a serious expression, a folder in his hands. "Rachel isn't who she pretends to be," he began, spreading out photos and documents on the table. "She has a criminal record for embezzlement and was a person of interest in her ex-boyfriend's suspicious death." I stared at the evidence, my mind racing. The woman who had stolen my son was a criminal, a liar, possibly even a murderer. A mix of anger and vindication surged through me. "What do we do now?" I asked. James smiled, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "We use this. If Rachel doesn't want her secrets exposed, she'll have no choice but to back off." Sabrina nodded, her determination matching James. "It's time Rachel learned she can't mess with you, Julia." That evening, James sent Rachel an anonymous message with copies of the evidence. We waited anxiously for her response. When the call finally came, it wasn't Rachel. It was Scott. "What the hell did you do, Mom?" he shouted, his voice shaking with rage. "Rachel told me about the blackmail. How could you stoop so low?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "I didn't blackmail her, Scott. I simply gave her a chance to come clean. She's been lying to you, manipulating you." "That's not true," he yelled. "Rachel is my wife, and I trust her. This is unforgivable." The line went dead, and I sank into the couch, tears streaming down my face. I had hoped the truth would bring Scott back to me, but it had only driven him further away. Sabrina and James tried to console me, but I felt hollow. Had I made a mistake? Had my quest for justice blinded me to the consequences? The next day, James called with a new plan. "If Scott won't listen, we'll go to the police. Rachel's past needs to be exposed, no matter the cost." I hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. But then I remembered Rachel's smirk, Scott's cold eyes. They had brought this on themselves. "Let's do it," I said, my voice steady. We presented the evidence to the police, who reopened the investigation into Rachel's ex-boyfriend's death. The media caught wind of the story, and soon Rachel's face was plastered across every news channel. Scott stood by her side, but the strain was evident. One evening, Scott showed up at my door. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed. "Mom, I need your help," he said, his voice breaking. "Rachel's case is destroying us. The kids, they need stability. Please, will you take them for a while?" My heart ached at his plea, but I couldn't forget how he'd treated me. "I'll take the kids," I said, my tone firm. "But I'm doing it for them, not for you or Rachel." The weekend with my grandchildren was a bittersweet reminder of what I had lost. Their laughter filled the house, momentarily erasing the pain. But when Scott came to pick them up, the tension returned. "Thank you," he said, avoiding my gaze, "but don't think this changes anything." I watched him drive away, a mixture of sadness and resolve filling me. Rachel's trial was approaching, and the truth would finally come out. I had to believe that justice would prevail. The day of the trial arrived, the courtroom packed with reporters and spectators. The prosecution presented a damning case, and Rachel's composed facade began to crack. When the guilty verdict was announced, a wave of relief washed over me. Rachel would pay for her crimes. But as I left the courthouse, Scott's anguished face haunted me. Had I done the right thing? Or had my need for revenge destroyed the very family I was trying to protect? Only time would tell. For now, I had to rebuild my life, piece by piece, and find peace in the knowledge that justice had been served. The aftermath of the trial was anything but peaceful. Scott's anger boiled over in a confrontation I had dreaded, but knew was inevitable. He stormed into my home one evening, his face twisted with rage. "How could you do this, Mom? You've ruined everything." I stood my ground, meeting his glare. "Ruined everything? Scott, Rachel did this to herself. All I did was expose the truth." "You don't understand," he shouted. "I trusted you to be better than this. Now my family is falling apart." His words cut deep, but I refused to back down. "Your family fell apart the moment Rachel decided to lie and manipulate. I'm not the villain here, Scott. Open your eyes." Scott's anger faltered, replaced by a flicker of doubt. For a moment, I thought I had reached him, but then he shook his head and turned away. "I can't do this anymore," he muttered before walking out the door. I watched him leave, my heart heavy. I had hoped the trial would bring us closer, but it seemed to have driven an even deeper wedge between us. Still, I couldn't regret my actions. Rachel's lies had been exposed, and justice had been served. It was time to focus on rebuilding my life. In the weeks that followed, I found solace in small victories. My grandchildren's laughter during their visits reminded me of what truly mattered. Sabrina's unwavering support kept me grounded, and even James checked in regularly to make sure I was okay. But the shadow of what had happened lingered. Scott's absence left an ache I couldn't ignore. Despite everything, he was still my son, and I loved him. I hoped that one day he would see the truth and come back to me. Until then, I would keep moving forward. Life had dealt me many blows, but I was determined to rise above them. I was stronger than Rachel's lies, stronger than Scott's anger, and no matter what the future held, I would face it with courage and resilience.